came from trying to, for me, trying to match and try to incorporate skills that I got at my past school, which was an arts integrated school, and my current school still, but it was even, I was just newly there when I originally created this DIW. And one thing that I learned and was exposed to and trained in at my arts integrated school was the use of art. It was called artful thinking, to help engage learners, engage readers, to take away the impediment of the text and have them practice thinking skills in a very engaging way that would help them. There's thinking routines. It originally came out of something called Project Zero at Harvard. You can look it up. There's a lot of information on the web about it. But I still incorporate 3 of the thinking routines into my teaching, the ones that seem to work best for me right now. The first one was so easy to use and so applicable to so many grade levels that it is now part of our Montgomery County curriculum. It's called See, Think, Wonder, and it is the way that I would begin this lesson as an activator. What you see, what you think about what you see, and wondering is the questions. Now the power of the routine is that it brings in all of your students, even if they are ESOL students, beginning language students, or students, because everyone can see an image, and as long as they have the vocabulary to do that, they can be part of this. The think part of it, because it's See, Think, Wonder, the think part of it would be an inference they can make about what they see, and then the wonder would be questions that they have. It's very similar to what you've probably heard, because it's been around for a while. So let's start off without giving you any background knowledge on this. What do you see? And specifically, what do you see?
See men in a boat.
See men in a boat. Anybody else? What do you see?
Thinking of the water is very, like it's, yeah, it's like there is a, I'm thinking of Peter in the boat, in the Bible, trying to swim, and the boat was rocking and the water is turbulence is what I'm trying to say, turbulence in the water.
And what makes you say that? What makes you say that the water is turbulent and the boat might be rocking?
Well, the sky looks like there's, and then the water behind, it seems like the waves are the movement of waves, and that they're trying to, the person that's rowing the boat, it seems like, you know, even the person down there, yeah, I see waves down there.
And that is a very basic part of the routine. What makes you say that? It goes back years and years and years, giving text evidence, in this case, giving evidence from the painting. What else do you see?
A shark fin in the back.
You see a what?
A shark fin.
A shark fin.
Ooh.
Raise your hand if you just now noticed that. I'm sorry, this is blocked. You see that or not? All right, so yes, this is shark fin. Now, this is especially murky, which it should not be quite this murky. There's something very important that you guys don't see, and it's right in here. So let's see if we can get some lights off.
Another person other than Ed, another Ed.
It's a pinnacle, right?
See if we can get the lights
Doing
on.
something? You're changing the, it's gotta be a menu button.
Like they're trying to.
It's like a door. You can almost see it now.
Yeah.
Mr. Keystone, whatever that is.
We're trying to lighten it, and I was like moving it back and forth, but I feel like there's gotta be,
There's
I thought that was
menu.
the sunshine.
There we go.
Yeah, with another head there. Is it on the picture?
There
Are
we
not
go.
finding the names?
Yep.
It's a
That's
contrast.
smart work this year. We've got a one.
I guess I'm working on
That's
it.
fine. Is that the lighting is so much better?
That'll work, I think that's better.
That's much better.
Yeah, bring that up too. It's like take this big contrast out.
There we go, I just see the lights going on.
Okay, better, there we go, much better.
Yeah, Michelle. What do you see? sharp and you would like to kind of point it out, is someone willing to come out and just come up and just kind of show it?
The T.
Do you want me to do it? I don't want to.
Yes.
Here's, this is an
Yeah,
I,
it's a T, yeah.
this is the T.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, no.
That's a T
Yeah.
there too.
Well, let's see. Up and down.
It's not
This
this.
is mine.
This is mine.
It's like this. Oh, yeah, it's like underneath. I think it's like, here's the mouth.
Oh, I see.
Like this.
Yeah.
Like this is a head, and this is like the snout with the, this is like the snout and the mouth.
Oh, yeah, okay.
It's not
It's
100%
not,
realistic.
yeah.
It looks more like mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This doesn't look like most sharps.
Because it's portraying the, how powerful the spirit images do.
Okay, now that we're brightened up a bit, what else do you see? Where does your focus go in this painting?
There's a guy, either doing a backstroke or he's.
Who's that? And I heard someone say he's naked. Yes, he is naked.
He? Yes,
I would
okay,
think.
yeah.
But you know what, students might see that it's the long hair and, yeah. Do they giggle about this? Absolutely. Now, what do you think about this image? And one thing I would point out right now to you and to students is we are saying he, we are saying the sharp. All of our discussion is third person point of view, okay? This is all third person. What could you infer about anything in this image? What do you think about it? What could you infer and why?
Well, I think it's interesting. It seems like they're in a harbor, and it seems like they're all on their own. And I don't know what that means, but it just seems it's very interesting. It's because the harbor is right around there, lots of other ships. So I infer that they're part of a larger ship,
Okay,
and that they're a rescue party of some sort.
interesting. What made you say rescue party?
Because they're in a smaller boat with no sails. So,
They're reaching out.
People are reaching out, I
Yeah.
guess, to save the guy or woman.
Saving him. What makes you think he needs to be saved?
They're reaching, well,
Yeah.
well, I think for one thing, the rest of the people have on clothes, so it seems like they were never together, like they are coming just to help.
Interesting. Very
that's
interesting.
interesting.
Okay. Anything you want to say about the characters in the boat?
They're all clothed.
Now, clothed. Do you notice anything?
The one with the spear seems to be in charge. Yes, he seemed to be in charge, and I based that off of maybe the way he's dressed. He seems to, yeah, like his jacket and his attire seems to be a little bit more presenting authority. And the other ones seem to be like ship hands or something, and I'm basing it off of how they're dressed.
The style of jacket?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? What about these?
What's in the guy in the back? What is
American man?
yeah. What is in front of him? Like directly in front of him.
Looks like
Oh, it's a scarf. Okay.
Oh, you mean the red?
Yeah.
The red?
Like a
Yeah.
snake.
I think that's probably
Yeah, it's unclear what it is.
Can you see what is in his hand?
Like a rope.
And what do you infer about that rope?
The rope is in the water, it's going through the water, the guy is trying to catch onto the rope, looks like. The naked guy.
What made you think he's trying to catch onto the rope?
His hands.
Well, I guess he's trying to catch on to it, or are they just trying to lasso? I'm wondering if he even knows that he needs to be saved, if he was just out skating. And they are saving him, or if he's really saying, help me, and they're trying to pull him in with a rope because it's around his arm.
It looks like they're basically saying just because of his mouth and the way he's kind of, his whole posture, it looks like maybe it's either that or backstroke. It's either one or the other, but to me, I feel like he's in a sort of a desperate, pose. His pose makes me think that.
One thing that is a cultural cultural information that I may share at this point, especially if they were giggling about the man, is that when you went swimming at this time, you would not wear your clothes. And certainly, this time period, people did not own bathing suits. So if you were going swimming, you would not wear clothes. So then they could kind of infer that this man did not, what could you infer that is not the case if he's there without clothes? He did not what?
He didn't fall in.
Okay?
So he probably went swimming and then someone said, there are sharks out there, we need to get out there and get him. And they, as soon as they get out there, they see that he is out.
All right, I
So
think
are
you
you
guys.
saying this is 1700s or?
This is actually the War of 1812 era.
I was gonna say, it almost looks like there's smoke, you can't tell if it's clouds, it's like sunset or sunrise maybe in the background, it almost looks like there's smoke in the background on some of the ships, like there's a,
But
I don't
it's
know.
interesting because you think sharks are drawn to blood, but like just to see him in the water. It makes you really point if he maybe wasn't swimming, he was a prisoner. Okay.
Could be,
But if this is a harbor, I would wonder why is the shark?
Right,
the
so
shark
close up.
so close not in the sea somewhere, ocean.
Okay, let's leave this, and at this point, you have a lot of information, and you have a lot of third-person point of view perceptions, okay? To take this to the next level, now, we are going to chart how we can change your third-person point of view perceptions into first-person point of view. And that would be through the routine that we're gonna use called perceive, know, care about. Perceive, know, care about really gets into character analysis, and you want to pick something that has a strong character. So it's pretty obvious in this, but it does not mean it has to be this way. We would generally focus on the man in the water, but it's certainly possible to focus on someone else, okay? So for our purposes, we're gonna focus on the man in the water. We're going to think and feel from the perspective of that man, okay? If you wanna look at your organizer, there is a left-hand column all the way through on all 3 pages. And that left-hand column is what we're gonna chart. And we are going to chart as a group what we would see, because perceptions can be all of the 5 senses, what we would perceive if we were him, okay, from the subject's point of view. Then on the next page, what we might hear, what we might touch and taste, I kind of put together. And then on the final page, it's no longer 5 senses, it's more of an inference section from his point of view. It's what he might know, what you as that character might know at that moment. Inferences from his point of view and how you would feel about it, what you know and how you feel about it. And pretty much going along with that is the care about section, what you, which would be I, because you're taking his point of view, what I care about at that moment, my emotions and why. So the last page is pretty much just, is really diving into his character and how he feels. Eventually, just because it's in front of you, I might as well tell you what's coming. Then on your own, you're going to, and I'm going to introduce you thinking about what the hands could remind you of. The hands, because you're going to be taking some of this and creating similes. So what could, if the hands are reaching out to me, the hands are like what? What could those hands be symbolized as, a metaphor, a simile of those hands? Keep that in your head, but we're not going to share those out. What else does he see? Do you see?
The shark close to his head.
You see the shark, absolutely.
Shark community.
Okay, and as you think about seeing that shark, think about how you might describe that shark. Okay, what powerful descriptive words could you use to describe that shark? What else do you see?
The rope.
The rope, absolutely. And as you think about the rope, think about the function of the rope. How could he possibly see that rope? What feelings might he get when he's thinking about that rope? Under sight, or you can move some of them to one of the other pages. Individually, and at this point, I would be, this would be done honestly probably in small groups, but I would be walking around listening if people are, if you're having trouble with similes or they're having trouble with images. But one thing I want to do is point out on the sheet, the simile example that I gave was from a situation that totally different, but to just activate background knowledge on similes. If I was caught in a rainstorm and I was running from the pool so that I had my bare back as I was running, the situation is running and having rain on my bare back, but I might create a simile. The raindrops felt like sharp knives, or the raindrops were as sharp as knives. And that could be guidance, always that model, coach apply type of thing, where you would have them write the similes first. So now, just focus on similes, focus on some comparison that would work with some of these images that from your point of view, from your Watson, from his point of view, what you could create. Again, hands reaching out to me, what could those hands be like, look like, sound like, feel like, and what was like that you can compare it to? The shark close to my head. How would you describe that shark? The shark is as or it is like the rope. Since you know what that rope is for, how could you describe that? People trying to save me, waves in the water, the boat, the sky, the smoke. Just do a couple of them, and I'll give you some time. The easiest way, and I'm sure I didn't make this up, the easiest way to create a metaphor is to start with a simile and just chop out the like or as, because students naturally speak in the comparisons of similes much more than they naturally speak in metaphors. Metaphors can sound very confusing to students, but starting in this way helps them to see why they can say something is something else, even though it's not literally that thing. So the example here is, now the raindrops were sharp knives, and then that's the one, or the were, the was is the one that most students would know. I put in the harder examples of metaphors, just so that you would have it, that knives of raindrops fell sharply, or knife raindrops, the idea of taking the noun and forcing it to be an adjective, which creates a metaphor, okay, just so you can see those. And now, one is fine. Look at your similes or simile and play around with the examples that I have and create a metaphor or metaphors from your similes, okay? I'll give you a couple minutes to do the third stage. So I'm actually going to talk about the third stage. The revision stage would take a whole separate lesson for students in small groups. But the idea that now they have this authentic writing. They are choosing which one they like better, the simile or the metaphor. But then it would be a whole lesson on vivid verbs, interesting adjectives, and adverbs, and how they can insert those to really make the one sentence they choose powerful. Many students don't even know that all they have to do is put a word in front of a noun to make it more descriptive, at least coming to me in 4th grade. So just the power of that, what kind of rope was it? The simplest is obviously colors, but the idea of inserting adjectives before nouns, and then looking at their verbs and helping them brainstorm lists of verbs that are stronger. Adverbs I'd only do with some students, I think, but I definitely would put it out there as possibilities of adding to the sentences. So at this point, pick either your simile or your metaphor sentence or sentences. You do not have to do more than one, but if you have the time, you certainly can. Decide which one you like best, and then really make it a strong, complex sentence to create an image. And the example that I wrote just out of my little practice ones was the pelting raindrops were sharp knives pummeling my back. I should have my glasses. Pummeling my back as I sprinted to the house during the torrential storm. And so think about Watson now. You are Watson. At this point, you want to completely flesh out what's going on in your image that you're creating. So add some more detail. It's not just the interesting language, it's also making sure that your sentence is clear, what's going on. When I say complex sentence, I mean as he, da-da-da-da-da-da, you know, adding the information to make what's going on very, very clear in your sentences. So go ahead and craft your one sentence, or more than one if you did, you know, if you're choosing them from different sections. So you can end up changing sentences as we go along when you're in a group. Keep looking for words that can make sense. And part of helping students with the revision process is this next stage, which is getting together with other participants in a small group, hearing each other's sentences, and then constructing together, which is tricky because they're all about themselves. And to have to choose what they think are the most powerful sentences, even if they're not theirs, is a skill in itself. But I also want to encourage them to combine ideas so that everyone's voice is in there. And there's a lot of teacher input in this process so that you're sure that every voice is heard, but you're also supporting the groups and they also have the autonomy to come up with their own decisions. So at this point, I want you in groups of 3 or 4. I did not do that in a way in advance but you could certainly with different type of choosing methods for groups. So if you want to kind of look around and I can help you with it, some are natural, but some people are off by themselves. But it really shouldn't be more than 4 or you won't be able to hear everyone's opinions.
Just see what you know, and write it down.
And then
We
go ahead and finish your sentence and then look up here for a second. So I can give you
Yeah, I did the hands too, yes.
Yeah, we all did, I think.
Okay, the second stage would be now, listen to them again and star what you think are the ones that are the most powerful. Now, if you have trouble with that, you can discuss it and say why it's powerful. You can give, this would be a great time, if you were teaching it, to model how to give positive feedback and say, I really liked it when you did this, and this is why I started, or this is why I think we should start. I really liked this image, and why. So that's a good thing to model. So go ahead and choose the ones that you personally think should be starred, share it with the group, but you need to listen to it again because you might have missed things the first time, okay? Go ahead. Working as a group, revising and deciding how to order your sentences, how to cut apart your sentences, and put some parts of yours with mine and creating a different sentence, but you want to write a paragraph narrative that actually tells a story, combining all of your ideas, okay? It doesn't have to, it should make sense, but it doesn't have to be perfect. And I don't have my student examples, they're up here. But the idea is, there's no right order of any of these, but it's more the thinking that's gonna go behind you talking about it and saying, let's put this first. Let's wait for this later. Maybe we need another sentence here that just describes what's going on. Maybe we need this as a conclusion. It's just going through that thinking, going through that revising as a group so that you get the strengths of the entire team.
Oh, I used to too.
I think you guys are about
Where
done.
I feel like I know you from there, yes, with Tom, Dan Lau. Is he still there?
Are you done?
Okay, yeah, I was there in college.
I think we're already done.
Does any group need more time? Okay. What I'd like to do is quickly share some student examples before we share out your amazing narrative. These are a few years old, but these are authentic. You know, it's just kind of getting us back to reality. This is what you're going to get from the students. My heart was pounding like elephants were pounding the earth, and like really, really mad bulldogs.
Ugly, bloody roads, that's good.
I'm afraid I don't want to die.
What I like about the Watson image, and this painting that we were doing was called Watson and the Shark. What I like about this image is that it does get them to, they think it's gruesome in a way, they think it's interesting, they think it's kind of funny, they use naked, all of those things kind of make them more engaged, and you get a lot of very powerful descriptions that you wouldn't get if it was one of the paintings like, you know, what is it? I forget the name of it, but the woman lying on the prairie, I think it's Christina?
No, Christina's love.
Yeah, it was
Christina's world. Christina's world.
Yeah, it's something like, you wouldn't get the same images. Then, at the time that I created this, sorry, it's not formatted well, at the time I created this, I was doing it for them to apply it in a memoir only, because that was part of my curriculum at the time. So these are just examples that I pulled out from their memoirs to see how they might have applied what they learned. So it's just giving you an idea of what they could apply from what they did as a group.
He would take my stuff and run like a chicken.
They're still at a very simple level. What's interesting to me is that I would say more than half are still at the simile level because they're the easiest for them to understand, to be able to create. But you've got a few metaphors in here. I was tied in a knot toward at the top. But mostly they're working with symbols. But even their descriptions are getting more powerful. A flash of dark hair, her face softened. And the kids that you want to work with the most are something like that very bottom one. I was happy as a little kid enjoying a toy. I mean, there are kids at that very basic level, but they're getting the idea of it, they're just not choosing very powerful images yet. Okay, with that in mind.
Love that one. I still felt nervous about the game, like a house before a tornado.
I think that's it. That is a little. I guess I was proud of that for students, so I put it in parentheses. Wow, I think I even remember the student that's about 5 down, that's pretty good. Who would like to go first? Anyone share what they created? You ready?
Alright. As I bobbled in the water in the massive waves of the river, the glistening teeth of the shark were shining white daggers coming to tear me apart. Like a distant mountain, it took longer to reach the rescue boat than expected, as it was always across the horizon just out of reach. The lean, outstretched arms and hands were a welcome gift from heaven, played against the terrifying fate at my head, like vines of ivy swaying in the brush of the woods, reaching out to me.
It's your tag group right there.
Hey, who wants to follow that?
Why don't we just go in order, the next group over here?
Alright, as I turned toward the rescuers, I could feel the shark's breath as close as my own shadow. The ear-piercing screams of the uncertainty were as bone-chilling as serving in the front lines of the war. The cold, cruel waves, like tiny hands pushing away as I frantically grasped for safety just beyond my reach. As desperation was kicking in, feeling the fiery burn of the rope raised my hope to the sky.
You guys aren't ready, I'll wait for the other group. That group?
Oh, I thought we were going in order, that group right there.
Are we doing?
Heavenly sun rays blinding me on my travels down a dark path of destruction. I can see the familiar hands desperately reaching out for me like an old friend's invitation, beckoning me to come. I am not going to make it. Oh my God, you heard my prayers. You sent your angels to help me.
The menacing sky grew more ominous as the surge of waves brought me face to face with the shark's gleaming white teeth. They were poised like daggers prepared to plunge into my exposed flesh. I reached for hope as I felt an angel's touch.
So my frightened eyes screamed out in fears of the approaching ferocious shark. The clear blue waves were rocking me up and down as in a heroic attempt, the rope, an umbilical cord, was tossed into the choppy sea. In a flash, I opened my eyes to see a barrage of shaking, wet hands reaching out to grab me like an outfielder desperate to catch a ball.
I really would like to know for myself before you split up, what did it feel like going through this as in your groups right now? Like what was positive about it? Was there anything a little bit uncomfortable about it? Was it, how did you think the writing changed because you weren't by yourself? What, do you have any insights from what you went through with just your part, the partner part? Anything you want to share?
It was positive to have your ideas received, well received. And the nervous part was that your ideas would not be.
Was it?
The negotiation of, well, we put this, how about that? Kind of, yeah.
And not every group works well. I mean, you're obviously going
Right.
to be the model groups, but it's very nerve-wracking for students, and some will almost act out in those situations because they're fearful that someone is not going to receive their work well, and so they'll start by maybe making fun of somebody else, and they're like, ha, or something, you know what I mean? So it's that type of thing you have to be very careful about, and it's class context a lot to do with it. Yes.
Yeah, along the lines, initially I felt like, oh, are they going to judge me? Because I usually just write straight to the point. I really am not a vivid writer. And so to receive confirmation that what you wrote was okay made me feel, a little better.
And that's something that really can't be done in one little speech to the students. It takes a whole year of empathy lessons and respect lessons, which is very important to my personal teaching. And they get it, but it takes a while, and they have to trust each other too.
And I also think there's a lot to be said for giving them the tools for how you might take that, how you might model what it would look like to give that wonderful feedback, whatever you call it, stars and stares, so that everybody knows that the feedback should be positive, specific, and helpful, right? So we have to have all of those things happening, and if we don't, it's not really feedback. It's just, so that I think is, and that's something you said, this would be a great place to start, like, okay, let's remember how we modeled what we want from feedback and what feedback must be in order for it to be productive.
And this shouldn't be the first time they ever were in this situation.
No.
Yeah.
The process also helps with writer's block, because as we refocus and we start to write and we think, you know what, I can't think of that word or what I want to say next, there's someone else there where you can brainstorm with, so the weightiness of the assignment isn't all on you. And then a wonderful extension would be if we work together in a classroom setting and the students did all of this, they can even extend it to homework or what have you and continue the story. And then you can have different branches of the same story.
Somebody had, yeah.
I was thinking it'd be, it's good to have like multiple different options for the students, and long complex sentences, because then we could pull apart different sentences and nobody felt like they were being thrown to the side.
And did that work out? Were you able to pull apart sentences in all the groups?
Oh, yeah.
No one was like, this sentence, then this sentence, then this sentence? So that's helpful too, and to get them, it is so hard to get kids to revise their own work. They don't want to touch their own work. And this practice of saying, oh, it's okay if we just use this part, it really gets them in that mindset, which is very difficult for many